Guys, got my new wheels in today. These are the STI HD9 bronze alloys with the black beadlock rings. Nice groove down in here, which is something you see on the nicer beadlocks. And unlike the old STI beadlocks, the HD5s and the original HD locks, nice 8mm shaft hardware with nice nuts on, nice washers on there. The old ones didn't have washers and they were 6mm, so real good clamping force. Center caps look a little chintzy, but they do have actual Allen screws to take them off, which is nice because the old ones were known to pop out. Love the color. These are going to look great on the Sportsman. They are a little heavy. They're 16.5 pounds for a 14-inch beadlock. That's a lot heavier than my Hypers, which are double beadlocks, but they were only $100 a wheel, not $400 a wheel. So pretty happy. The 34 motobosses, there's one opened up. As you can see, it's as tall as a 400EX. Really nice tire. I love the way it looks. I've never had a chance to test them, so I wanted to get them. I love that little texture it's got on there. And it's like a Terminator, except it's got really good tread spacing, but it's almost solid in the center with only small brakes, so they ride pretty nice. Problem with this tire is super stiff. It has got to be the stiffest tire I've ever bought, and I don't see them getting much softer. So they're probably going to go up for sale soon. They're going to be on those same wheels, except Polaris lug pattern. But you can see that they're taller than my 33.5s, and they don't even have air in them. They're not even mounted. But yeah, so that's what the Hurricanes are for. The reason I didn't get beadlocks for 16s is because the only beadlocks available for a 16-inch wheel have terrible offset. I don't want my bike being super wide. These are 4+3, 5+2-ish. These offset, I measured them, are true 5+2, so they'll keep your bike nice and skinny like factory, which is really nice when you have a bike that's already this. Alrighty guys, High Tradition's all back together. Didn't video putting the transmission together after the hard part because the rest of it is straightforward from the manual and comes apart the exact same way you took it. Goes back together the same way we took it apart, so I didn't bother. But the important stuff's in the video. The 2-inch lift is on there and it looks a lot higher. I put what was said to be a 2-inch lift on there, right? It's a 2-inch lift. But now under the hitch, I'm looking at 16 3/8 inches. New ground clearance. And in the front, we're looking at 17.5 inches. There's a mat under there, so about 17.5. So yeah, do the math. Give you a little more than 2 inches. I did order the rear raked arms with a 3-inch lift from whatever that company everyone orders arms from, Outcast Fab. Those should be in a couple days. But yeah, definitely recommend doing the transmission mod. Everything works great with the razor chain, everything like that. Marty, you're the man. Everything worked out great like you said it would. Really happy with it now. Now I can actually trail ride it and go pretty fast. A lot of people said I wasn't going to be able to go over 50 because there's still a speed limiter. I just hit 65 miles an hour on the dash and I wasn't really revving it out that far. So that's plenty for me. Not going to mess with the tuner now because I can get the top speed I need. Once I get bored of it and need more power, then I'll put a tuner on it. Nines are all mounted up on the 32-inch by 10 by 14 sledgehammers. The wheels honestly took as much time to unbox as they did to mount. Beadlocks are so nice to mount. They just drop over, bolted down. I haven't aired them up yet because I don't run the compressor that's late at night, piss off the neighbors. But they look pretty good. Here's how they compare height-wise. As you can see, they're only a little taller than the 995s, about 2 inches. And that's because they don't have any air in them. It's a lighter setup, and it's a more forgiving setup. They don't have the corner knobbies that these have. And these corner knobbies are what break axles and rob a lot of power and make your bike really slow in the sand. These stay up on top of the sand a lot better. After riding them on my 300 last weekend, I had to buy a set for the Highlifter edition just because they're so awesome. So the 32-inch sledgehammers, they're on there on the true 5+2-inch wheels, HD9 beadlocks from STI alloys. They don't rub at all. It just has a 2-inch lift. And the 32s are at 10 psi right now. They're not rubbing. So I'm going to ride them around a little bit more, and I'll drop it down to about 4 psi, maybe 3, and they definitely won't rub then, even though they're not now. But yeah, so you can run 32s on this bike without putting anything. So kind of sad that I already ordered the raked arms because, as you can see, there's enough clearance there already with this offset. If you had wider offset, you'd have to trim the plastic a little bit. But really happy with it. Really smooth riding. Hits 70 miles an hour. And it's not too wide now. So tires fit mostly under the bike. So I'll stay pretty clean. And the ground clearance is a lot better. It would be a lot higher than this, but I just set the preload down to the softest setting to help my axles not freak out over the weekend. Once I put the Cobras on there, I'll crank them back up. But yeah, really happy with the wheeled tire setup. About to go retorque all the beadlocks and all the lug nuts, because that's the smart thing to do after you mount up tires and wheels for the first time. My favorite things about the Highlighter Sportsman: 4 10mm bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you loosen up these 2 on the fuse box, and that whole front rack assembly comes off, and you have super good access to the giant, nice, clean radiator. You can see where the gasket on there seals around the radiator. This radiator is completely clean, despite all the mud we went through. There's one spot here, and that's because you can't clean that without getting, that's been there for a long time, so I'm going to clean it real good finally. There's the snorkels and everything. The bike is really nice to work on. Very simple, the way they put together. Could not break this thing this weekend. Really thought I was going to break an axle or two because I'm running 32s and a 2-inch bracket lift, but no axle breaking. Great power, great torque. Everything's 100% waterproof. Really happy with all that. My one big gripe is the suspension is terrible. I think the main reason for players putting such low high range gears is because they don't want you to go fast, because the suspension is terrible. Part of the reason it's terrible is because I have a bracket lift and have this shock set at their softest setting, which means I have very little up travel, lots of down travel. So they bottom out a lot. And it bottoms out so hard I almost flew over the handlebars. Actually, I did fly over the handlebars. And the way that this is shaped right here, there's nowhere for you to really grab on with your knees. See how this is nice clean spot right here on a Rubicon? That's where you grab with your knees. Here, it's a really awkward shape. You don't have a good spot to grab. So I'm going to put me some traction pads or something so you can squeeze it with your knees more. But it was a serious upper body workout to keep yourself on the bike because the suspension is so bad. You know, granted, if you're driving it like a normal person, it's fine, but I was doing wheelies and all kinds of other stupid shit. So I ordered me some shocks off a Scrambler to put on here. But other than that, really happy with it. Way more reliable than I thought it would be.